Well, the question is who'll get the last word, me or Ray? Never mind. I just wanted to start off and say that it's really an honor to be here and to be recognized by the Institute, because this is part of our future, the training of young people to stand up and fight for the environment and so many other causes. And I want to go back a minute because I grew up very close to here, and my family also was a volunteer-run camp up in Ringwood, New Jersey called Camp Midvale. And to be a member, you had to be a trade unionist and environmentalist. It was New Jersey's first interracial camp. Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis were members. Pete Seeger actually lived there. We do fundraisers with Joan Baez, with Cesar Chavez for the Farm Workers Union. So it left me with a very important ethic. But the other side of it is growing up in Hillside, where there was a foundry not far away in Irvington, and when that was running, I could write my name on my dad's car. There was a stream behind my house in a patch of woods where you could see the different colors in the stream depending on what was happening in the local industry, and you could throw matches at it and watch it flare up. And then I would go up to Ringwood where you could see fish in the pools and the streams and you drink the water out of it. And from an early age, I understood that the environment is a struggle for social and economic justice as well as environmental justice. That areas in this state, in this country, that are poor, minority, or in areas where they are located next to historic pollution, they are targeted, and they're still targeted. And other areas have a very healthy environment. I used to say that Governor Whitman's vision of open space was her riding her horse and not seeing anybody who works for a living. And so part of our job and our future is not only to protect the environment, but to also deal with environmental racism, sexism, and classism. That the people, no matter where you live in this state, have a right to fresh air, clean water, a healthy environment, and open space. And that's what I dedicated myself to. And part of it is that we also tend to forget, because now so many environmentalists have become Zoom chair warriors. We're doing Zooms and having webinars is environmentalism. It's not. Environmentalism starts with each individual, but that individual working with other individuals to build a future. When I was in 7th grade, I organized the kids in 7th grade in Hillside to clean up the Elizabeth River. That was our Earth Day project. The principal of my school couldn't get rakes and shovels from the DPW. Well, I went to Charlotte DeFilippo, who I used to hand out flyers to starting at 10 years old, and I asked her, about can we get, equipment? And she asked me 2 questions. Will the press be there? And I said, yes, the Hillside Times. And can the mayor come? I said, absolutely. She said, you got whatever you need. That was my first political environmental lesson. And that's the point, that it takes all of us to make things happen. We are now at a time of a tremendous crisis when it comes to our planet, when it comes to climate change and climate destruction. And where we go forward from here will determine our future generations and the kind of environment they have. 20 or 30 years from now, they might think this is a cool summer when we get hotter. The only thing we need to do is make it hotter for the politicians right now than it's ever going to be to get them to pass the legislations, rules, and programs that we need to deal with climate change. One of the things I learned right here was at the second Earth Day, they had a training at Kean College, and I cut school to go to it, by the way, but I think I passed the statute of limitations. But they trained us on organizing and politics. And that year, they targeted 12 members of Congress called the Dirty Dozen and defeated 7 of them. That is part of the lesson, that when people say the environment and politics don't go together, no, there must. And someone who says that it's not political, they're so wrong. And what we need to think about is getting back to the old days when environmentalists not only stood for things, but got things done. In 1972, President Nixon vetoed the Clean Water Act. 250,000 people showed up in front of the Capitol in October demanding the law be overridden by Congress. 25,000 people, and I was one of them, stayed that week to lobby Congress. Senate voted 94-2 to override Nixon's veto. The point is, we went out there and we had clout and we had political power, not because we go to a room, we're sitting with some funder. It's because we built it from the outside in. The only power an environmentalist has, or any progressive has, is from what they do on the outside to bring that power into that room. And this is one of the things I think we need to start going back to, and I think the Lesniak Institute is one of the places we can work at it, is that you have to, and a good friend of mine, Ed Lloyd, who founded PERG, who passed away recently, really helped create this, and I learned from him as a kid and as an adult, as colleagues. One, you have to do grassroots organizing, you have to involve local people, you can't talk down to them. Two, you have to have science-based reports and facts on your side. Three, you have to lobby government, you have to get involved in politics, you have to sue if you have to pass legislation. It's an all of the above approach. And when we do that, and we have tens of thousands of people in the streets, or we engage everyone moving forward, that's how you pass things, and that's the only way we'll ever pass things. And right now, with the esoteric threat of climate change, and I'll just say that when Trump was president back a few years ago, he blocked the cleanup of Agent Orange in the Passaic River. And I always thought it was because that was his Russian code name. But
it took me a while.
I know. But my point being that it's up to all of us. And I'll give a couple of little battles and stories so you get to understand how things get done. It doesn't get done by walking into the legislation. We have a wonderful chair of the Environment Committee here and just say, can you do this? Sure. Yeah.
That would be Jim Kennedy, Assemblyman and Mayor. Give him a big hand.
Yeah. So I would like to use this little story. FDR in 1936 had a meeting with Jane Addams, A. Philip Randolph, Norman Thomas, and Walter Reuther on Social Security. At the end of the meeting, the president said to him, "You have my support, now make me do it." That is our job. We have to make them do it, and we have to give them the political cover to get it done. If someone goes out there and passes an important law, like I'll do the Highlands Act, one of the reasons it passed is because we went out and got 40% of the towns, be it Democrat or Republican, to support that legislation. Because they were tired of overdevelopment, and they were tired, and we used the science showing how water pollution was threatening our reservoirs from all the sprawl. That's how you get it done. This won't happen today, but 6 out of 7 senators were Republican from the Highlands, including the co-sponsor, were Republican. So we have to make sure that we put enough pressure on political leaders, but we also have to do the science, we have to do the research, and we have to build the political consensus and operation to get it done. And that's really what it's all about. And it also means you have to sometimes stand up. You mentioned Sterling Forest. In 1987, Sterling Forest, 5 of us met in New York to try to save Sterling Forest. It turned out that an international insurance company, a conglomerate, bought this piece of land. It's 22,000 acres that sits on the New York-New Jersey border in North Jersey, right above the Wanakee Reservoir, where a lot of people in this area still get their water from. And we took them on, and we ended up having a massive grassroots movement. We had celebrities come to a fundraiser at the wetlands in New York, and then the politicians got involved, Pataki, Whitman, even Newt Gingrich, and they wanted to basically cut a deal where they were allowed to develop a third of the forest with half the development. It's going to be a city of 35,000 people and 25,000 jobs, right above New Jersey's largest reservoir. And they wanted to cut the deal. At the board meeting, most of the environmental groups went along with it because they were done with it. They'll go fundraise off of saving some of it. And they were going to vote it at the executive committee. Myself, representing the Sierra Club and Skylines Clean, and Andy Lawrence from the New York Sierra Club started chanting, "Bring it to the members." They were getting ready to vote. We jumped up on this giant table in David Spoke and Wardell's offices, which is a giant law firm on Park Avenue. We started stamping our feet and jumping up and down, take it to members. We did it for 45 minutes. What happened next is they couldn't vote because no one could hear anything. 2 weeks later, we had a membership meeting. We voted that whole board out and elected a new board. And guess what? Today, Sterling Forest is a park of 22,000 acres, and there's not any development in it. Woo! Because we didn't listen to politicians. today is valuable. It's about what we can do. And you should take a ride up there because it's a beautiful area, and you should think about when you drive around New Jersey, all these wonderful places. Like there was a woman I know who was very involved in saving the Pinelands and getting Governor Florio and Congressman Florio and Congressman Minish to do the legislation. A group of citizens got the Pinelands saved, and Brendan Byrne did it because it was part of getting the endorsement from the Sierra Club when he was running in a very tight election. Up in the Great Swamp, a group of women who were raising their children at home took on the Port Authority where they wanted to build a jet port. Not only did they beat the Port Authority, it's now the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge. The things that we have when we look around the state, whether it's cleaning up the toxic site or preserving open space, is because the people of the state and the people in their communities worked together and fought to get it done. And that's what we need to do together. Together we can get these things done and we can save not only our neighborhoods, but the planet. Thank you.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Big hand as we are already coming in. By the way, Jack would say the name Bob Grant is a very